Hello, Publicans. I'm Josef Marc, CEO of Publica, and here with me today is Sukhi Jutla, our author advisor, and you know her from Escape the Cubicle, which is published on Publica. And Sukhi, please introduce our guest.
Really great to be here, Joseph. And yes, I am Sukhi Jutla. I am the author advisor for Publica. I'm super excited to be here today. We are here on our monthly AMAs, so Ask Me Anything with Joseph. But today we have a special guest. So today joining us is Wren St Claire, who is a romance writer based in Brisbane. And Wren is actually one of the authors who approached Publica and was super excited about working with Publica and getting her book on the blockchain. And she contacted us and she's very excited about doing a book ICO with us. So we've invited her to join us on today's Q&A, and Wren has a ton of questions and we're going to be talking to her about all those questions. So we really hope it will answer any answers and questions that other authors have. So Wren, just introducing yourself, welcome. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and also what brought you to Publica and why are you so excited about blockchain for books?
Thank you very much for the intro, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this. I'm really excited about it. And the reason that I'm excited about it is because I can see the potential in the technology. I'm firmly of the belief that cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is the new way that businesses are going to conduct their business in the future. And I want to be part of that. I'm really excited about this being a disruptive technology that's going to take the publishing industry in a new direction. And I kind of missed the first wave with Kindle, and I'd like to be on this one. So that's part of the reason why I'm interested. And I think the potential for authors in this technology is awesome. Being able to put us back in the middle of the business model and provide that control over our businesses and our lives is really exciting. So yeah, they're a couple of the reasons that I'm really excited to be here.
That's brilliant, Wren. And just to let our audiences know, so Wren approached us maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and in that very short space of time, she's become very good with actually understanding the basics of blockchain and actually how she can incorporate that sort of element into her business model. So Wren, could you just sort of just very quickly tell me a little bit about what sort of apprehensions you had about blockchain, but then you've just caught onto the wave very quickly. So how difficult or easy was it for you as someone who didn't know anything about blockchain to actually have now quite a good understanding of it?
Okay, well, that's the first part of the question first. What concerns did I have? I guess concerns that I had were about the instability of the cryptocurrency and the association of that with book prices and getting paid. And the other concerns that I had were associated with the concept of the resale really sent the whole author network into meltdown, because they kept thinking like secondhand market in books, for print books drives the price of print books down. And they were also worried about the lack of availability of or being a cap on the number of sales of books. So that really sort of worried them. But then I started thinking about it and I thought, well, it's not actually like that. If you're able to determine the price yourself through your contract, then you can control where the price goes and it doesn't get driven down. And it's not about a book token being resold at a lower price than the one it was bought for. It's about a book token being reusable as if it's new, because it's not degrading. It's not like a print book where you buy it, someone reads it, and it gets a bit tattered around the edges and it's obviously secondhand, and therefore you can't charge the same price you can for it when it was new. Whereas with an ebook, you can. So that was one of the sort of light bulb moments that I had. As for how I got up to speed that quickly, well, I hammered you until I could get as much information as I could from you, but also the other channels where I could find information, like your Telegram channels, and I kept, poking around your website until I found every skerrick of information I could find there, and your Publica Facebook page. And then the Telegram sessions I've found most useful, because that's where a lot of questions and information gets put. it's an interesting experience because it's particularly the cryptocurrency channel, not the author channel, is full of crypto nerds. So they have a very interesting way of communicating and talking about things. And I found that to begin with a little bit daunting and a little bit off-putting because it's a very different way of talking about the whole concept. But I guess I was open-minded enough to just sort of work with that and get mine the information that was there. So putting that together with the questions that I was asking and the answers that were coming back, I started to piece together a picture of what this is all about. And that's when I started to do things like pull together my business model, because you challenged me, Joseph, to do that. You said, I don't want to tell you how to write your business model or your contract. You do it. So I thought, okay, and I did. And I seem to hit it on the head. I seem to get it right, I think, from the feedback that you gave me. So that was really encouraging to me and really exciting. And I'm still working on that. I'm still refining it and coming up with new ideas about how I can make it work. So I haven't finalized it yet, but I'm getting there.
Well, I just want to say that those Telegram channels, thank you. It's good for me to know that they're helpful. And you mentioned the authors channel and also what you call the crypto channel. We call them the publicans.
Yep.
And I love both those channels. They're so much fun to be in. But you're right, they are different cultures. And you said in the beginning, Wren, that you think this is part of the future, and I believe it is. I think most of the people who are interested in the blockchain space understand at some level that this is going to become normal. And I love the way that in the publican channel especially, they just talk like it's been normal. It's just like they were born with it.
Yes, and they do tend to talk in language that's not necessarily that easy to follow. A lot of the statements are quite cryptic, to use a bit of a play on words. But I guess when you tune your ear to it, you gradually get to understand some of what they're talking about. Some of the things were a bit alarming to me to begin with, because they're coming from the investor perspective and it's a bit different from the author's perspective. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend all authors getting into that channel, because I think a lot of them would be scared off by some of the conversation in there. But I think I was open-minded enough to not be put off by that.
On the other hand, they're going to buy your books. Those are your fans.
Well, yes, I'm hoping so. I think I've already got one because I answered one of his questions. And he said, he was really excited to find out about my book. So I told him a little bit. And he went, oh, wow, sounds great.
So, Sukhi.
Okay, that is, I'm just super excited. I love what Wren said, because the keywords are being open-minded. So authors, this is what's so exciting, right? Publica and the blockchain creates new opportunities. And so authors do need to be more open-minded. And I saw from some of your questions, Wren, you were asking some of those questions from an Amazon lens. You're like, oh, they're doing this. But then I'm really happy that you've seen that and you can take that lens off, because with Publica, anything is now possible. You don't have to stick to certain things. So really excited. So what we'll do is let's just jump straight into the questions. I know you've got a whole list. So why don't you start off with one of your most pressing questions?
Okay. All right. Well, can you talk me through how an author uploads their book to the Publica catalogue? What steps do they go through? Because you've done this. So what did you do?
Okay. Okay, so at the moment, all the files that you produce to get your book onto Amazon or Kobo or anywhere else, those are the exact same files that you need to publish a book with Publica. And with my process, I had some help with the development team. And what I did was I sent all of my information to them, which is essentially all of the data that I'm asking authors to submit. So I've created a form and I'm asking authors to submit it. And basically, this is all the information you already have. Things like what's your title, what's your description, if you want to add keywords, and then what's the price you want to set out. So upload your actual files, and then upload your JPEG cover file. And what happens is the developers will upload the files, and then Joseph, correct me if I'm wrong, all those files sit in a server space, and then the details like the book name and my name are burned onto the blockchain, and they're sort of hashed. So a key is released, but none of this I'm actually aware is happening, Wren. So it's like I'm explaining the behind the scenes stuff, which I didn't need to worry about. So from an author's perspective, for me to get my book onto Publica was super simple. All I did was send the files and the information I already had, and then they basically did everything for me. And then within a matter of minutes, my book was ready, and it was available to be bought and sold. So I had to open a wallet, and that wallet took about 10 minutes to do. I was I was a little bit fearful. I was like, oh my God, because I'm not a technologist, but I can work technology. And I had set aside an hour to do the wallet. I thought something's going to mess up, but it took 10 minutes to do. So that was very easy. That was the most technical thing I had to do. And now it's like a piece of cake. It's really not a big deal at all. So from an author's perspective, it's super simple. You already have all the files. You have that information. You send it to Publica or put it into the form, and then they will do the rest. Joseph, do you have any comments on that? Is there anything else I missed?
Well, it is the same as any other from the author's perspective, because you're contributing what you contribute, and your readers are buying directly from you. The only thing that the blockchain introduces is that the cryptocurrency has to go to your wallet, and that's why you had to make a wallet. And yeah, 10 minutes, I think that's appropriate. I'm remembering back when I got my first credit card, it took a lot longer than that. But other than, yeah, the only new thing is a wallet, because that's where your money has to go.
Yeah, I did the wallet today, and then I had to try and do the purchasing cryptocurrency thing, which got me into trouble. So I haven't got any further with that yet. I'm still working on that one. It required me to do something like verify some transactions, and I didn't know where I was supposed to do it. So that pulled me unstuck.
You don't need to buy
any
cryptocurrency for publishing your book, but you're saying
no, I don't know that, but I wanted to do the process so that I'd actually go and buy one as well. Okay. I was going to buy one of Matt's tokens so that I'd actually been through the process and understood it from that side. So I'm still working on that bit, but yeah, that's going to take me a little longer to master, I think. But that's probably the most complicated part, and the bit that I'm hoping that you're going to be able to streamline for readers, because until you can get round that and actually enable them to buy with normal fiat currency, as we use it, I'm starting to learn as part of the jargon. They won't use it. It's too complicated.
Actually, there are billions of dollars in cryptocurrencies, and those people, they want to buy a book, so don't rule them out. But yes, you're right. There are also billions of people that don't have cryptocurrencies, and so yes, that's always been on our roadmap. We call it the fiat layer. It works just like when you buy an airplane ticket, right? You get to choose what currency you want to pay in. So same idea, because blockchains are global. When your book goes for sale, it's for sale around the world.
Yes.
Whatever currency, all of them, including cryptocurrencies. So yeah, for the readers, that's always been part of the plan, and I've seen the developers working on it and testing things, so that's coming soon enough.
Good. That's the bit that I want, and I would like to wait until that's actually available before I'd launch my ICO, because my market is not going to be cryptocurrency readers. I'm writing romance, which women read.
How do you know that?
But well, I'm making an assumption. Challenge me. I'm happy to be challenged on it. That's my assumption. My assumption is my readers are women between the ages of 25 and 45, who are mostly who are not dealing in cryptocurrency. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Certainly, the thriller angle in the book, I'm hoping, will attract readers that are a bit outside that market, and maybe there'll be some cryptocurrency people in that. But yeah.
Well, I'm making fun, but seriously.
Yeah, I know.
There's one. There's a reader. She has cryptocurrency. And,
that is true. Yeah, and me too. But yes, but I'm assuming that the bulk of the market that I'm looking at is not in that space at the moment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And as an independent creative entrepreneur, you have to think about all of your market. You have to serve all of them. But I hope you don't want to serve only the ones that fit right in the middle. I hope you want to serve all of them, including the ones that would rather purchase with cryptocurrency.
Well, I'm happy if they want to. I don't have any objections to that, but I was just worried that that would be a barrier for the readers that would be mostly the type of readers who would read my book. That's what I was concerned about, it being a barrier that they can't get over to actually get to the book. And that would be...
Sure. And that is Publica's responsibility to remove all those barriers. And that's no problem for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I'll be really excited to tell other authors about, because they'll perceive that as a really strong barrier, and they'll say, oh, well, my readers won't read this, won't do this, therefore, there's no point. So that's one of the barriers that we need to be able to get overcome quickly, so that we can get those people on board with it, because I think it's a great idea.
Thanks. But I just want to encourage, for those of us that use cryptocurrency every day, please let us read your book.
Oh, I'm happy for you too.
Okay.
I think also, right, a good point to note is these readers are voracious readers, okay? So they understand the joy of reading, and these people are most likely wanting to gift these books away and tell others to buy it too. So once they realize that if they buy a book with Publica or on the blockchain, firstly, the book actually belongs to them. No third parties can come in and delete their account like Amazon can, right? So you can buy all the books on Amazon, but there's this clause in it that says you can close your account at any time, and your books will also be wiped clean. Then the second thing is, you can, if I'm a voracious reader, I can, after I've read this book, so I do this all the time. If I have any physical hard copy books, I read it and then I just give it away because I can't store it at home. I'm trying to, I don't have enough space. And then the great thing is, if I buy 2 copies, I can gift it to someone else. So I think the other thing is educating our readers to tell them there are more benefits. It's not just about reading the book. It's about what can you do with it afterwards. So I think that's really exciting.
Yes, it is. And that's one of the things that I think we need to bolster quite strongly, because I can see the real benefits for authors, but I was struggling to see and understand really the benefits for readers that be strong enough to attract them over to here. And that's, I guess, one of the other barriers that I want to see overcome is, how do we deal with the fact that Amazon owns most of the reader market, like 99% of it?
No, that's not true. Actually, 96% of the world has never signed into Amazon to buy shoes or toothpaste or anything.
Okay, great. I'm glad to know that.
96% hasn't logged in yet.
Yes,
Well, they're going to log into Publica instead.
So okay,
Well,
that's good.
I mean, it's I've always said books are how humanity helps itself, and I hope that people get books in many ways, from their libraries, from their friends, from their loved ones, from their parents, the universities, everywhere. Publica is just another way, and it's, as you said, it's one of the ways that we know is going to be part of the future, because cryptocurrencies are just so darn practical and being adopted. But the idea that Amazon has 99% of the book market, it's just not true.
Okay, but that's the perception that most authors have, because that's the only place they sell their books. A very big percentage of authors in the indie space only sell on Amazon.
Yes, Amazon has done a wonderful thing. I remember when Amazon first started, I was trying to convince everyone to use it to buy books. And Sukhi's heard this joke before, and everyone said, but why? There's a bookstore right there, which was true. But my point was that, the internet and what it brings to the powers that it brings to the buyer are things that people can benefit from, and Amazon pioneered most of those things, and especially for authors and readers. Amazon has been doing this since 1994, and they've done a lot of wonderful innovations. I just want to point out that they're not the only ones, and they don't actually own the world.
Yeah, no, that's actually true. And I've got an example of that, because we were investigating this before. China. My husband actually sells items that he imports from China. So we have contacts over there. And I got him to ask his contact, do the Chinese read books in English, or do they only read in Chinese, and where do they buy their books from? And he came back and said that they use Dangdang.com and JD.com is where they buy most of their books. I don't know what those sites are, but that's interesting.
Well, actually, my partner Anton's Sabrico, our COO, he went to China, and I spoke to many people in China about books. And if you go to the Publica catalog store right now, you'll see there are a number of classics that we put up there for project validation and testing and to get the library started. They're actually came from a Chinese distributor, and they're in English.
Okay, yeah. Because one of the things I was interested in is sort of exploring, can we set up sort of resellers or distributors in places like China where they could sell into that market for us, because that would be the only way I could imagine that I could reach that market, because I can't do that personally.
Right. And on Monday, I'm going to Korea for the International Book Fair there. And
yes, that's right. So, yeah.
It's global.
Yeah, which is fantastic. So that's a really exciting thing to bring to the market as well, and for authors to realise that they can reach much wider than what Amazon provides them. But at the moment, where everyone is, as Sukhi said before, you come to this thinking through the Amazon lens because that's where you've grown up as an author. Well, a lot of us have. There's authors that go back to the days of traditional publishing, but I don't predate that. So I'm someone who's come in, during the Kindle era as an author. So and I switched from being an avid reader of paperback books to reading almost exclusively on my Kindle. The only books that I still buy in hard copy are non-fiction books. I don't buy fiction except in ebook form now.
I buy paper and electronic books and audiobooks, and my paper books, some are there, some are in Latvia, some are in Norway, they're everywhere.
Yeah, I have a room full. We've got a studio out the back that's full of my library. I've got so many books, but I don't buy fiction in hard copy anymore, unless it's not available in Kindle, and I really, really want it.
Well, that's one of the great things about the internet is now we have choices. So Sukhi, where do you think we go from here?
Well, I was just going to add, I have the same buying preferences such as Wren. So I'm just thinking, is this a growing shift? Because I don't buy fiction in hard copy, maybe because there's just so many. But if there's a really good non-fiction book, a business book, like a reference book, I'll have it on my desk. I'll highlight it. So, I think with it's just really interesting to see these buying shifts and patterns of behavior. But I do think that with technology just becoming ever increasing, people now are valuing choice. It's not the price now that determines whether you buy something. It's like a race to the bottom, right? And I think what happened was when Amazon was trying to push the books, they only had a couple of hundred books on their self-published platform, and no one was really digging into it. But it's when a lady called Amanda Hocking put her book on Amazon store, she set the price for 99 pence, and it started doing like a little bit well. And then Amazon just pushed it up. And in the space of 3 or 4 months, she became the first Kindle multimillionaire. And that's when everyone thought, okay, we can do the same. So they kind of needed one superstar to set it on fire, and that's kind of what happened. But now it's completely saturated. And like you said, Wren, your comment was Amazon has a 99% market share because that's your lens. That's where you come in from. And, Joseph said, what was it? Like 96% have never logged into Amazon. That's a huge market.
That's huge. I didn't know that. So I'm really excited by that. It's wonderful. It's fantastic to know that.
Yeah.
But how do we tap into those people?
Yeah.
If they haven't logged into Amazon, why would they log into Publica?
Okay. So the other, so if 96% have never logged into Amazon, I also believe that there's a generation who are going to leapfrog. So leapfrogging, they are not buying stuff on their laptops or their desktops. They're buying it on their mobile phones now. So it's going predominantly through an app. And these people are also now getting more used to buying things directly. There's no need for a third party. And if we give them the opportunity to buy direct, it just makes more sense. And the majority of these people are probably people who are in the non-saturated markets, who are basically developing economies, and those economies that are now growing and getting greater internet penetration. So, you know, you've got a voracious reader market in India and in China and Brazil, South America. These are the new places that are now going to be embracing blockchain. They're going to be embracing direct sales. They are happy to give that a go, because now everything is happening via the mobile. So some people might purchase their first book on their mobile phone and they've never heard of Amazon. And so these are going to be like lifelong readers. You know, what do you think about that, Joseph?
Sounds great.
Well, they already have wallets, and you're right. They don't know that you're supposed to log into Amazon and then look for a book. They don't know that. And
okay.
So don't tell them. So ask yourself, you know, look at your own shelf of books and ask yourself, how did I buy those books? What was my personal path to paying for those books? And include the ones that were given to you, right? Because with Publica, people can gift books, and I think that's important. Because I love giving books, and I love being gifted books. So that's a clue. You follow the people you know and trust, right? You follow the trail of reputation. And the rest of the world, they already understand that. They don't know you have to log into Amazon first. They don't know that you have to trust Amazon as the arbiter and the guide to what you should read and buy. So let's just don't tell them. They'll follow their own instincts. And,
good.
and the reason that I'm not too worried about the Publica catalog attracting readers, and there's no chance that it could ever catch up with Amazon's anyway, even if no matter how much money we put into development, they started in 1994. You can't make that up. So they have many years of testing and what works for their market. Let me point out, their market is not your market, is not your market. It's their market. So I totally agree with Sukhi. I think that people can, wish to, and should buy their books from you.
Well, absolutely. And there's a lot of indies who want to do that. They want to be able to have that direct connection with their readers. They want to be able to sell directly through their website or whatever. They want to be able to do that. And so that's one of the things that makes this opportunity so very exciting.
Cory Doctorow is one of my favorite writers, and you can buy his books, I don't know, probably lots of places, but he does a podcast, and he explains on his podcast that get them wherever you want them, whatever works for you. But if you like him, buy them from him, because why not?
Yes,
so I do.
I know. You sent me the link to his site. I had a look at it. And I had a look at that article on pricing as well that you sent me. That was really interesting. Yeah, that was a good article. I enjoyed that. And yes, it is an issue with the Amazon ecosystem, if you like, that the market's saturated, prices are too low, and there's a whole bunch of readers that have been trained to expect to get books for nothing. And that's a real problem for writers, and it's really becoming an issue now for authors, because they're losing out. They're putting their content out there and not getting paid for it.
Well,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sukhi, I want to hear from you on that.
So I like Wren said, right? Gold dust. Indies want to sell direct. We want direct sales. So when I released my book, I sort of, without thinking, or it was a no-brainer, put it up on Amazon, but I was not willing to play those scammy games on how to put in certain keywords to get yourself ranked higher. I was just not bothered to play in that ecosystem, because that Amazon ecosystem is that small. So I can be a superstar in that field, or I can be a superstar in this huge market opportunity. So I just came in with the viewpoint that I put together a quality product, and I want it to be available as to wide and far and reach as many people as possible. However, I was not willing to compromise on the price, because as an author, you put in a lot of time and effort, and you also only want the right people to buy your book. So I do think direct sales is the way forward. Amazon has a small ecosystem where people are playing in that, And I also think that it's a waste of your time if you're trying to scam the system and do things. So for example, if you go to Amazon and you look at also bought next to my book, it's stuff like travel luggage. So people are buying my book and then they're buying, suitcases. I don't know, maybe they think they'll go on a holiday and think about ditching their job and doing something they love. And in normal author circles, you would be expected to alter those other boards and do different tag names and put in different keywords. But that's not my job. My job is to write quality books and let them be available to as many people as possible. So yeah, it's all about which market are you playing in? Which ecosystem do you want? Do you want to go direct and go wide, or do you just want to keep playing in someone else's world, which is Amazon's world? Because like Joseph said, it's their market. It's not your market.
Absolutely. Yeah, the readers on Amazon are Amazon's customers, not the writers' customers. We're the content providers, but we have very little control over what happens in that environment. And that's what's really frustrating authors now. They're getting really, really frustrated by how that's playing out at Amazon. So I think it's ripe for a change. I think this disruptive technology is just coming at the right time when the wave from the Kindle is starting to come down off the curve. It's coming off it's maturing, and the whole market is incredibly saturated.
You two authors have been talking about how to use Publica and some great ideas all week long. What have you come up with?
Well, I think some of the ideas that I really was attracted to is this idea of having what I'm calling resellers, which is having a reseller market out there that can sell my books into places I can't get to. And one of the things I wanted to clarify with you is exactly how they're going to do that. Are they able to link to the book from a website that they're running? Or how does it work? Like how are they able to resell my work? How are they able to reach markets that I can't get to? For example, discovery services like Book and Main, which is a romance discovery service, they currently enable the author to publish excerpts from their books on their site with links to the book, and those links go back to Amazon or wherever. And they have an ability in that site for you to be able to communicate directly with readers, because the readers come in and search for your books through the excerpts rather than through the search criteria and stuff that where they're corralled into looking at things that Amazon wants to serve them up. So it's a great way for romance writers to communicate with romance readers, and romance readers who are not necessarily on Facebook and social media and all that sort of thing. So it's another market, right, and they do that way. So would they be able to get to my book, for example, that's on Publica, through a link on that site, assuming they can do it? But is Publica allowing them to do that kind of thing?
Yes. So I laid out a vision for that in my blog post called "A Billion Stores, a Common Linkage," and that's billion with a B. And I don't actually think there's going to be a billion stores. What I meant was that everyone can and should link back to the direct selling creative entrepreneur. And where is that link? And of course, you're talking about some website links, but I thought it can go even farther than that. So you're a romance writer, but bear with me for a moment. I'm thinking of Anthony Bourdain and his tragic suicide. So that's been on our mind. He's done a wonderful thing around the world. So if I was at a restaurant and had a wonderful meal and I wanted to buy the book written by that restaurant or by the travel writer who recommended me to that restaurant, well, why don't I just put that book on my bill at my meal, and it'll be just delivered. So that's what I mean by a link. And yes, any kind of link. And we're not trying to recreate the Amazon model. Remember?
No, I know. That's really what's exciting.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You belong to the author. But however the reader finds the book and the author that they wish to follow, then the linking to the purchase, that's trivial.
Okay. Great. That's really exciting, because that's the thing I wasn't clear on. I couldn't seem to get any information about that. So that's part of one of the questions that I had. I'm just looking at my list of questions and see where, because you've answered some of them. So I'm just sort of skipping down to have a look at, see what else I've got here.
Sukhi, I bought another copy of your book the other day. I wanted to give it to somebody.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Oh, will readers be able to do the try before they buy, checking out a sample of the book before they buy it kind of thing? And how would they do that if they can?
Oh, try before you buy.
Yeah, you know, the Amazon does the look inside feature. That's that kind of thing. Some way of being able to provide that to them.
Yeah, and I think that's a very concrete example. If in Publica's mobile device app, if you had to sign into that app and then discover the book and then try the book, I think we've sort of defeated the purpose of decentralization. I would prefer that they preview the book on Wren St Claire's site. Great.
I love this idea.
Or in whichever community sites that you participate in. And I think of, it's another, I think it was Australia, 50 Shades of Grey is a pretty popular book, and it was published by a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Right? So wherever it is that romance readers who want to read your romance novels, wherever they hang out, wherever you find them, that's where they should preview the book and you.
So basically you just get your links everywhere and people can sort of download the preview that way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between centralized and decentralized.
And that's an interesting concept.
Called the FANG, F-A-A-N-G, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google.
Yeah, I know them.
You're familiar with that, yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
It might be more poignant here in the US, but we're very sensitive to what the internet was and what it's starting to turn into in terms of centralization. And as that affects book buyers, readers, and the writers of books, books don't really need centralization. And again, thank you, Amazon, for all you've done for us, but we don't really need you. Not for books. We might as well just continue what we were doing before, which is you write a book, you find it however you find it. Authors talk about it, book clubs talk about it. I go to the library a lot, and when I buy the book, I would rather just buy it from you.
Yeah, I guess it's the discoverability thing and how you get that, how you get enough of a profile to make yourself discoverable. But if you're in lots and lots of places, then that helps. It's a counter argument to the centralization model, where Amazon provides the discoverability for you, except that if you're a new author, it's almost impossible to get discovered now. Because there's so many others.
For those 96% that haven't logged into Amazon yet, they're not going to discover you either.
Well, yes, I know, but it's that discoverability thing that is the biggest headache that authors are confronted with at the moment, and ways of being able to make that better for authors is really exciting. So if we can decentralize that without defeating the purpose. See, from the reader's perspective, they want to be able to go somewhere and find a choice of things that they're looking for. So they want to be able to find, writers that are like what they already read. So ways of being able to facilitate that, I think, are going to be really important.
It is, and I'm going to hand this to Sukhi in a second, but again, from my travels around the world, they don't know yet that they're supposed to log into Amazon. They're probably going to start with their friends and and ask, and then they'll be led, hopefully, to you. But Sukhi, what does the Alliance of Independent Authors say about discoverability, and how do you think Publica can help?
Yeah, great question. So this is like sort of the issue I had as well. Authors are responsible for writing their content. I get that, and write the book. But then sometimes there are some authors who expect if I just upload a file, I'll instantly get discovered by millions of people around the world. This is
It doesn't happen
wrong,
like that.
people. Correct. It does not happen like that. So I totally understand, Wren, as well, when you said, what do we do about discoverability because Amazon has the market share? But actually, no, they don't. Because when you upload your book, you fall into their system algorithms. And then it depends on if they press a button and bump you up onto the front page, or if they have you as a featured author or the featured book for this week, that's when the sales kick in. However, that is like looking at the end result. All this other work authors should be doing is stuff like having an online profile. Okay, that's our responsibility. Setting up our own social media accounts, that's our responsibility. Getting our books in the places where our readers are, that's our responsibility. Talking about our books and marketing our books, that's our responsibility. The end result is when your book becomes a #1 bestseller. But sometimes, and actually most of the time, you don't know how that happened because it's this magical formula that can't be reproduced. So it's like going back to what Joseph said. For me, every book I read is literally come from a personal recommendation. And I would say 10% of the time it's I find a book recommendation if I'm flicking through a newspaper. But then what type of newspapers do I read? I read business books. I read business-related newspapers. I read papers on entrepreneurialism, businesses, psychology. So that's where I'm hanging out. And so those books, those authors need to put their books in front of me in that space. Or sometimes I'll just walk into a coffee shop and there's this really random book that looks super interesting because the cover looks good. I pick it up. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll put that on my list. So people are not actually buying books from Amazon. I don't really buy many books from Amazon anymore. It's more about, I love walking into random thrift stores or charity shops and browsing what's there. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a new author. Or the cover looks good. So I think it comes back to the bottom line, which is blockchain is not going to be a silver bullet solution. And, there's a potential to sell many books, but it all comes down to the authors doing their job right. There are two parts to being a successful author. And I think every author who wants to make money, which means, paying some bills, has to understand and incorporate a business mentality. And we're not saying you have to become the next Jack Ma or Jeff Bezos. All that means is understand how much your book cost you to produce, and then the price you're going to sell it at. So that's your profit. And then where are you going to distribute? Where is this market? Put some time into finding where these people are, and then distribute your books there, and then do everything you can to basically market yourself and market your books.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
I buy books wherever I want to buy them. I discover them, and in my experience, mostly by an author that I already like. They often talk about the authors they like, and I always check them out.
Yeah, I do the same. Yeah.
So another question?
Another question. Right. Talk me through print books again. You've sent a couple of emails about that, and I still don't get it. How do you see print books working with this?
And I'm going to answer first, but I'm going to hand it back to Sukhi in a minute because she actually has paper copies of Escape the Cubicle. So you, Sukhi, correct me if I get something wrong. But so the author is selling book tokens through the Publica system. I buy book tokens. I have them. I actually have a few book tokens of Sukhi's book right now in my wallet because I send them to other people as a gift. If I want to send someone a paper copy, Sukhi, can I just send my book tokens to you and then you'll ship the paper to them?
Yeah, I can do that. But then where do I print it? Where do I print it?
Print the book? I think you've already printed some, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, okay. I understand what you mean. So you'll send me the token. I understand. And I have copies printed. Yes, that's correct. So I take the token from you and then I ship my physical print.
Right. Because if I send the token to you, I don't have it anymore. Right. And
correct.
It's like it's a receipt.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So then the question is, me as the author, where did I go and get my books printed? I went to, I think there's two main places, Create Space, which is owned by Amazon, or Ingram Spark. So I would order the books from there, which is what normal authors, usual authors do, or they can get it from a publisher as well. You can print on like 2,000 in one go. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, brilliant. Does that make sense to you, Wren?
Well, sort of, but I still don't. How do you control that? Like so you're the only one that can produce print books, because otherwise, if you're sending, you can't convert a token to a print book in any other way. Is that right?
Well, of course, there are other ways. I just gave a real world example because Sukhi actually has a book that I like to give to people, and I pay for it, and then, but I don't have a paper copy. I don't know. I suppose. I'm sure if I spent enough time on the internet, I would find some way to get a paper copy to the person I want to give it to, but I'd rather not. I know Sukhi wrote the book, right? Her name's right on the book. Why don't I just buy the book on Publica, ask her if I can send her the book token, which takes it out of my wallet. It's like a receipt, and she can ship the book. Now, that's not the only business model in the world. So how would you rather have it work? And Publica can probably help you.
I don't know. I have been thinking about that, and I wondered if it's possible that you, a reader purchases the book, but they want a print copy of the book. So they've purchased a token, and maybe as an author, you set up some arrangements with print-on-demand services, wherever they happen to be at different locations, and they are able to actually print the book and ship it to the author. Sorry, to the purchaser,
Right.
the reader, as part of the transaction, so that in the transaction there is some sort of payment goes to them for the cost of the printing as part of that.
Yeah. So
Does that work?
well, technically, yes, absolutely. The smart contract that Publica can write for you on the blockchain can achieve all those things. We're a little bit into. I was listening to William Gibson and Cory Doctorow talk about science fiction, and it's funny, we always think of science fiction as something in the future, and both of them were saying, no, it's actually what we think of today and what we wish was already here because of what we are already living with. So yes, we wish that there were print on demand. There's a print on demand printer here in my town, just a couple miles from my house. I wish I could print books there, right, with a book token. And every time I see that thing, I think, and it's online. The only thing stopping me is that the company that controls it, they don't know what a book token is yet. Well, how long will it take for that to go away? And they will discover what a book token is. They'll be happy to take the money and make the book pop out right here in my town.
Which is kind of what I was thinking would be the way it would have to work, because so you could set that up if you have a network of those that say, yes, we'll take your book tokens, we'll print your books on demand for readers who have bought them.
And I can see why someone in Brisbane would think about that, talking to someone in London and Florida at the same time, because that's the reality of books. You deserve a global market, but the printers.
It's one of the real problems we have with print at the moment, because Amazon does not support printing books in Australia. We can't get our books. I've got a partnership with 3 other writers. We wrote a book together, and there's 4 novellas in that book, and we can't get print copies of those books in Australia unless we take them to a print-on-demand place and get them printed separately. We can't sell them through Amazon to get print copies because we'd have to pay the postage, and the postage is a killer. Like, it costs an absolute fortune to get a book from the US. Pardon?
That sounds like a market opportunity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Because it's just insane. Because they won't set up a print-on-demand service here in Australia, even though they've got an Amazon store here.
So it just goes to show, right? Like Amazon's business model is not focused on books. It's a tiny part of their business, but for most readers and as most authors, they gravitate towards Amazon, but that's not where the world is. And actually, Joseph, it's very exciting when you talked about the other POD centers, so print on demand. This model and this scenario or smart contract that we've just discussed actually decentralizes print on demand centers and actually now gives them a reason to push that forward. Because before, loads of print on demand centers just thought it was not worth it because everyone goes to those two big giants, CreateSpace, owned by Amazon, or Ingram Spark. But now you're incentivizing anyone who has a printer could actually do that. You know, technically, anyone who has a printer, I don't know if 3D printing would work on a book, but if someone has a printer and is willing to print a book and get a token sent to them and paid in cryptocurrency, and say the book is shipped just a couple of roads out, they'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, there are print-on-demand printers already installed in tens of thousands of cities and towns around the world. They're already there. One of my favorite authors is Seth Godin, and he recently did a really long discussion with, it's a very recent podcast, and it kind of tugged at my heart because here's a man who spent his life writing and book packaging books, and he said he kind of thinks the book industry is doomed, not because people don't read, but for other reasons. And I thought about that long and hard, and I thought, well, but he also said people will keep writing, but the problem is you can't have a long tail if the head doesn't work, right? If you don't have the launching of the books, the beginning of the books, if there's not an industry for that. And I think what's going to happen is the demand is there. People want books. They want them on their mobile devices and their computers, and they want paper. They want all the above and the audiobooks. People just want long form because long form content is different from short form and medium form and fake news. It's a different thing. It's worth more. People want it, they will get it. And when it comes to how the mechanism that they get it, it's going to localize, it's going to decentralize because people want it. And whether it's a book token that goes to an office somewhere in South Korea that then authorizes a computer in South Africa that then prints it out in Brisbane, who cares? That's just the internet.
It's exciting is what it is.
So what else? Book tokens are a receipt that I paid for this. what that receipt leads to, whether it's my phone or print on demand here in South Florida, that's just internet. What else?
Yeah. Okay, another question. If each author can set their own contract rules, won't readers and resellers get confused? If they don't know what the rules have been set, or they think they're getting one kind of deal and discover they're getting another, aren't they going to get upset? And how will they be able to check what the rules are so they know what they can and can't do with the book?
Well, the good news is Publica doesn't set the rules.
No, the author does. Yes.
So Sukhi, what would you do if you had a smart contract that had resales provisions?
So what I would do is I would sell my book at a particular price. So just say it's at $14.97 at the moment, dollars. Then I would program in, if anyone is going to resell this book, I would set a minimum price that they can sell it at. So there's a minimum. Or what I would do is set it at any price and program in a commission or a cut I can take out of it. Or what I could just do is they can resell it at face value because it's still a brand new book, right? And then just program in my cut. So every time this book gets transferred again and again and again, I take 20% and the reseller gets the rest. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I understand that. And that's part of what I built into the model that I've been talking about. But what I'm actually talking about here is how do we communicate that information to the buyer?
Okay.
How do they know what they're getting? How do we communicate that? Because it's a new concept for a start, but also if each author is setting their own rules, and those rules are different, because we can do that, because we can set a contract up according to the rules that we want. How do readers know what they're getting when they engage with us to buy a book? How do we communicate that information to them in simple, easy terms for them to understand, so that they know whether they can gift the book, whether they can resell it or not, and at what price, and those sorts of things. So how do they know about that information?
So, Joseph, would that not mean then, say in the description, say if I sell a book, somewhere in the description it would say this can be gifted at this particular price? Is that how it would work?
Well, I think you want to distinguish between the book ICO and the catalog. So the book ICO is the beginning, the introduction, the place where you explain the smart contract. So that's a web page, and of course you have your own web page. And at Publica, anyone who comes to your book ICO page at Publica, there's a place where they can sign up for information. That would be an email address that goes back to you because they're your customer, not ours. So where do you explain your smart contract? Well, on the book ICO page, of course, and however you normally communicate with your fans, hopefully through your own website and your own platform. The second part of your question is, what if someone, the long tail, right? Let's say 10 years from now, you're not even thinking about that book anymore. You're writing, you're the 50th book in your series, and someone finds your book on the internet. They decide to buy it at the Publica store. No, let's hope they go first to your website and your platform, and there's a buy it on Amazon and I get a little bit of money, maybe nothing. Buy it on PayPal, that'd be great, but I don't know how to deliver it to you. Oh, buy it on Publica. Oh, that works. So they click the Publica button, and that's where they end up in the Publica store, and you want an explanation there. And there I would say yes. In that case, Sukhi's answer would be right, because now that's a book description of a book on a shelf in a store, which could be discovered by any possible path. So at that point, let's do book description. Hopefully, we'll have a link back to your site where you can explain everything about your business model and what you want your resellers and readers to do with your book.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and they'll find that when they try to violate those rules, they won't be allowed to, because their contract ensures that they can't.
Yeah, so there's two things to think about here. There's the smart contract that you ask Publica to write onto the blockchain at the time of your, we call it a book ICO or initial publication of your book. So we write that smart contract onto the blockchain. Another concept that's more relevant to resales is what we call the Publica Exchange.
That was one of the questions I had. What's the difference between the exchange and the catalog? Yeah. Right.
So the Publica Exchange is in development. It's always been on our roadmap. I was just looking at some early code this morning, and my co-founder and the CTO, Yuri, he's been working on that diligently for months. An exchange is different than a simple purchase, right? Purchase, price, buyer's wallet, seller's wallet, pretty simple. And also in your smart contract, your initial offering of the book, you could disperse revenue, like you could share the revenue with a co-author or an illustrator, an editor, and so on. The exchange concept is what you're talking about now, and that's a little more complicated, because remember we said that what if I buy the book with a currency, and I'm not thinking in that sense, but I'm sending the book token, which is technically a receipt for what I bought. And so, yeah, what people think of prices will be a little complicated, but for people that, as the world globalizes, I think we're all getting kind of used to it. We understand there are different currencies, and books aren't like buying a house or a car or something. It's, you know, it's down there in I want the book, I'm going to get the book. So the exchange is a separate function, and you don't need the exchange if you're just giving the book. I've done that in a video already to demonstrate it. I gave a book to Dante, our community manager, but selling a book that's the resale model, and so you would want that to go through the exchange and meet your rules. So that's a different smart contract, or a different handling of the smart contract terms and conditions. So you mentioned that you would want to sell your book with a bulk discount, which I think is a good idea. If you know, I've bought plenty of books, and I've thought, if I had bought them all at the same time from that author, could I have asked for a discount? So then to you, that looks like a wholesaler. Excuse me. And if they, excuse me, but if any reader ends up deciding to go into reselling your book, whether because they're a really big fan or just their life changes and they just discover that, actually, I know an author in California who writes about traveling, mostly motorcycle tours. And now she's selling books for lots of other authors just because she's good at it, you know, from her site. And these are authors that are sort of in her same kind of space, and you know, people that like traveling and motorcycles. So that's going to happen. So in the Publica Exchange now, the author who is the rights holder of a specific book or specific series of books, in your case with the romance novels, you set up some rules. You tell us what the rules are, and we'll put those rules into the smart contract. Now, I don't want to tell you what the rules are. I want you to tell me what the rules are.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
And then you have to tell the public what the rules are, because they're your rules.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I tell them. I've got an echo. I don't know if you can hear it. I tell them what the rules are, and they know what they're getting when they buy the book. So that's part of the deal. So I have to provide that communication, that information with the purchase of the book. Now, talking about the exchange and how that works. So subsequent releases of, because you talk about an ICO, which is the initial, what I call a pre-order. That's how I think about the ICO, as a pre-order. Because it's before the book's actually released. And then people buy those tokens, and when the book's released, they get a copy of it delivered to them. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, because
they've paid
book ICO right now, and
yeah,
you would call it a pre-sale as well.
Yeah, because they've paid for it up front. Okay, so once I've done that release, then presumably I need to release more books in subsequent releases. I talked about it being like a print run, to liken it to the old-fashioned way. So I then decide, I've done my ICO for, say, 2,000 books, which is my initial special edition release, if you like. And now I've sold out of those. You know, they've all gone out into the ether, and I want to sell some more. So I decide to release another edition, if you like, of the book. And I make it slightly different from the ICO one, because I want that one to be a special edition. So maybe this is the standard edition, or whatever I call it. And so I release that one out into the world. So that goes out through the catalogue, that release.
Well, it doesn't go out. People buy it, and they can buy it with cryptocurrency. They can buy it with, you know, their Pebbles, which is Publica's token, and they can buy with the other currencies as we discussed. People buy it, and so if they're buying the first edition, which you said was a limited edition, and those are sold, then you would have to offer a second edition.
Yeah. Okay. So the catalog would have both editions on it.
Oh, the catalog, sure.
Or if that is sold out, does it stop being on the catalog and only become on the exchange? Do you see what I'm saying?
No,
I
of
don't,
course
I
it would
don't
be
know
in
if I
catalog.
expressed it right.
So for those of you watching, when Wren says catalog, what she means is download the Publica app, and there's something called a catalog, or go to our store online. There's something called a catalog. I think the important feature of the Publica catalog is the search field, and because that's what they're for. And the great news is when you search for Wren's book, you're not going to get any travel luggage. You're only going to get books. But I think that when people, is your question about how people discover your first and second edition, or how do they choose which one to buy, or?
Well,
I think if you don't mind, yeah, I think what it is, Joseph, because I'm asking the same thing now, actually. So imagine the first copy of my book. I only did 100 copies. It's in Publica's catalog, and all of those have now been distributed. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to get my book and update it. So now it becomes a second edition, and now 100 copies of those are now available. So I can either do a book ICO for it again, or I can just go straight into listing it into Publica. So the question is, when someone searches for Sukhi Jutla's books in the Publica app, will both of those editions turn up, even though the first ones, they are no longer available, but they're only available on the exchange now?
Yes. Does the search search the exchange as well as the catalog?
Yeah, that's a user experience question of how the catalog will work, and the searching, and that's still in development. So I think I'm going to bookmark this section of this video and ask them to make like a demonstration of what that would look like.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because that's a good question, actually, Wren. If all of your book tokens have now sold out, they're not on Publica's, I mean, would they still be listed on Publica, but they're not able to be bought there? Maybe they can only now be bought on the exchange. Or even, what if you went back and bought half of your tokens? You can now list them on your website, or you can list them on Publica's catalog. So yeah, loads of opportunities there, actually. It's all about, thinking about what is best for you as an author and where those opportunities are.
There's another author who's not on this call that I know is planning a limited edition, a scarce edition of something, and he knows there's a demand for it. So he's deliberately doing that. And I really look forward to seeing what he does with that, because that would be informative and instructive for all of us. Because when books became digital and copying in digital costs nothing, that's what started this whole problem about who owns a digital copy of a book, and does copyright apply? Of course it does. Right? That's where it all got complicated. So as Amazon trained a small part of the world how to think about that over the last couple of decades, the rest of the world still thinks of a book as, if I bought it, I own it, and it doesn't matter if it's digital or analog. I paid, it's mine. But what if a digital thing is scarce and can be really scarce, and it's really valuable? Never mind the information. This is not it's not the cure for cancer book. That one should probably be widely spread. This book is a very special book. I want to see what happens, and we won't know until he does it.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I actually had was, what is the benefit to an author of having a limited number of copies of their book available? Because the whole point is we're trying to make a living here. So we need to keep selling books. Otherwise, we're not going to make any money. So how do we balance that?
Well, that's why I sent you that link about pricing. And I think that was it was from the Alliance of Independent Authors. Sukhi, if you can remember who wrote it, that article, but I think it's someone you know. But price experimentation and price sensitivity is something that a creative entrepreneur needs to think about. And scarcity of a book token is just one of the tools that you can use to work on the pricing model that works for you and your customers.
Yes, I know. But if it's so scarce that you've only got a limited number left, you can't sell any more, then that becomes a problem.
Well, per edition.
Per
which is
edition,
exactly
yes,
what
exactly.
paper books
So
are,
you can
per
keep
edition.
producing new editions of the same book so that you can keep them in print. It's like, you know, in the old school when in print days where books would go out of print because, you know, the publisher wouldn't print anymore because they couldn't sell any, you know, they weren't selling enough. So the mid-list author lost their income because the books went out of print.
Yeah, that is a problem. And I remember when I first discovered the 1940s science fiction genre, and I went looking for them, and yeah, a lot of them were out of print. And I would find them, right, in the aftermarket, the resale market, which we used to call used bookstores.
Yeah.
And I would happily buy them, and then I would look at the cover and go, 10 cents? I just paid $10. What's up?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But the other mechanism I worked out is that if you have the resale, of course, then you're continuing to keep them in the market. But the issue with that is the resale is to get the resellers to sell them for you. They've got to be making enough money on it to make it worth their while. So you're only going to get a small slice of that pie. You're going to get the direct sales is where the author wants to be getting most of their sales from, because that's where they get 90%.
Yes, so, Publica, you would get 90% of the initial direct sale. The percentage that you would get from someone else doing the work and handling the transaction of reselling your book token, that's something you would need to tell us to program in your smart contract, and we would put that on the Publica Exchange. But how much do you feel you need to control resales? I think ultimately you're worried about, oh, I don't want my resellers to compete with me. But on the other hand, why not?
Well, no, if it's on the principle that they're reaching readers I can't reach, then that's fine. But if they're cannibalizing my market, my direct market, then it's a problem because they are in competition with me. And if there's so many of the tokens out there that are being resold that there's no appetite for anyone to buy a direct copy from me, then I'm out of getting income. See what I mean?
Yeah, well, that'd be a nice problem to have. But
oh yeah, I know. But yes, but that's one of the fears for the resale thing. You know, I said that the author network sort of went into meltdown about this resale thing. That's one of the things they're afraid of. They're thinking, well, if there's that many tokens out there and they're being churned through over and over again, then the market's saturated with my books and I'll never get any more direct sales from those. So I will only be getting a proportion of that, not the direct sale. Do you see what I'm getting at?
I think I do.
That's what they're afraid of, and I don't know that we've got the answer yet. I think we have to find out. It's kind of a bit of an experiment to suck it and see what happens.
Yeah, I think we should experiment. But I think that the key difference that the blockchain brings to you in your direct sales and the smart contracts that you that would interact with the Publica Exchange. The key difference is that you do get to decide. You get to experiment.
Yeah.
And what you learn, you can share with others, and others can share with you. And you as authors, I know that writing is a very solo pursuit, but you live in a community of authors like Sukhi, right? It's a community. So share with each other, experiment with the exchange and the smart contracts, and figure out what works for you.
Yeah. So the exchange is you're treating it as different from the catalog. How do people discover stuff in the exchange? Well, they don't. It's only through
yeah, discoverability. Like I say, I hope discoverability never becomes centralized at Publica. I hope it becomes centralized at the author.
Yeah. So that's where the exchange. So the exchange is the place where the resale occurs. The mechanics of it occur. It's not a search and find kind of facility.
Right, an exchange. It's an automatic mechanism. It's just.
So it's under the hood.
It's under the hood. It's like eBay without a web page.
Right.
Right. It's your book. It's your contract.
Okay. So to clarify again, the activity of the actual initial sale, not the ICO, but the sales of, you released your book, the ICO is sold out, and you got a second edition. You put that into the catalogue, and that entity in the catalogue is the link that you send, that you attach in your website or your reseller sites or whatever, for them to actually find the book, or the reader to find the book.
Right. And I would say not to find the book, right? They're going to find the book through you, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Right?
But
you're what they really
link it's the thing they
find the
click
book,
on
they click
to actually
buy the book, yeah.
buy the books. Yes, sorry.
And-
Not to find it, to buy it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the
Okay.
romance, you're a romance novelist. So in the romance novel business, you write series, right?
Yep.
And that's what the readers want.
Yes.
Okay.
You get good sell through on a series. So yes, if your first in the series has got to be good. But if you get engagement with that, then you get them hooked, then they'll read the rest of them, hopefully. But again, you've got to be good. You've got to be good quality. You can't just write crap. Although there are some scammers in Amazon who manage to get away with it. I don't know how, but they do, and they seem to make lots of money.
Okay, so this could be interesting for authors and readers watching this. So you're a romance novelist, and Sukhi is a nonfiction writer.
Yeah.
With a financial and technology background. Pretty different markets, and yet, as a reader, I might buy both. So what I would rather buy with cryptocurrency. Thank you very much. If you'll please allow me to.
Yes, you
Then-
can. I'm not stopping you. I just want I want the readers to be able to also buy with fiat currency.
Of course they will. But so when I look at your Sukhi's book, which I've already bought, and I've bought it again, and I've gifted it. I get it. That totally solid for me, no problem. I just do it on my phone. When I buy Wren's book series, would you like to offer me in your book ICO an option to buy the whole backlist, right? Everything that came before I discovered your series.
Yeah.
And some number of books in the future in one transaction. Would you like to offer me that?
I guess I could. I hadn't thought of that. Great idea. I'll make
Okay,
a note of
I
that
tried
one.
to do that on Amazon. I couldn't do it. There's no button for that there.
No, there isn't. Yeah, but that would be great. Yeah, but you're right. If you can set the contract up to do anything, then you can do anything with it. And you can change your contract with each edition. Is that right? Make changes to the contract?
Change a contract. Yeah, that's an excellent phrase to talk about. On a technical level, a smart contract, it's like a spreadsheet, and it goes in the blockchain, and it can't change later. Now,
No, but you can change the rules for a new edition.
correct. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah. No, I know you can't change it once you've created it and for that edition or that release.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could rewrite it for a new edition. So you guys, as part of your service, you're able to take a new set of rules from us for a new release.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
And Sukhi, I think your book, well, I don't know what you're writing now, but I wish Escape the Cubicle had like an update, a 2018 version, because the story kind of ended, in London City, but I know there's more to the story because I know you.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes, there are sprinklings in my head. I am actually thinking about what's the next thing going to be. So the first was Escape the Cubicle, quit the job you hate, create a life you love. So I'm thinking of the next thing, escape the something else, start your own businesses, and so yeah, I do want to do that. I am thinking about the next edition, and I like that it stops us off in London, but I've been doing other things, and what's the next journey, and and that book will probably have a different set of contracts and terms and conditions, and that's what's so exciting, because I learnt from the first one and now I'm going to be doing something different. So very exciting. Yeah, very exciting.
So as your customer, I don't actually remember how I I hope that I'm on your email list, but I don't know. I don't remember what I signed up to or when. So, but I know that since I did buy the book on Publica, you do know who I am because,
Yes. Yeah.
And there, I want to point out that unlike my Amazon subscription, where I think they know a little too much about me, the only thing that Publica knows about me when I bought your book was because I voluntarily entered my email address and said, I want to know. So completely compliant with the new rules about privacy and so on.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful benefit, because Amazon, of course, doesn't let us know anything about the people who buy our books. We have no visibility of that, and that's one of the things that frustrates authors terribly. So, and one of the difficulties is we have to nurture to try and get, reading lists, email lists, people who will form our platform and stuff like that, and it's very hard to get them. So the ICO offers a beautiful opportunity to get that by getting people to sign up and say, yes, I'd like to be on that list and notified of your next items and things like that. That's
Completely.
great.
Yeah. So the email list allows you to communicate with your readers, and Publica and the blockchain allows you to sell directly to your readers. So it's like direct, you're communicating directly to them, and then you're allowing them to buy from you directly. So you become, like Joseph said, the centralized source of information. And that's why, and that's why with the Publica, we don't want to create a centralized platform. The discoverability starts with the author, and that's where it should be. You should be the centralized source of Wren St Claire and romance books, and then people can buy from all these different places. So I think that's a really great place to wrap up. Actually, we've spoken about how can an author upload their book with Publica. We've talked about the reseller market. We've also we've spoken about how Amazon is not the predominant market. 96% of people have never logged into an Amazon account. We've also talked about discoverability. We talked about how we can do print on demand. And we have also spoken about the reseller and the Publica Exchange. So it's a great depth of, places to talk about, and all these great questions that you've come up with, Wren. So thank you so much for joining us today. And Joseph, thank you so much for all those questions. And if anyone has any other questions, please just put them into the YouTube links below and let us know how we can help. So do you have any parting words, Joseph?
I started this video saying, hi, I'm Joseph, CEO of Publica. I ended up being a reader. I'm your customer, and thank you for teaching me, your customer, how I can stay in touch with you and your future books. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Wren. And do you have any parting words? Thank you so much as well for being so excited about this. And you are like the perfect type of author that we would love to have on Publica. You're open-minded, you're fully engaged, and in just such a small space of time, you've completely sort of embraced this new technology. And from being someone with no blockchain experience and knowledge, you've just come up to speed in less than 2 to 3 weeks. And I would encourage everyone to just basically join our Telegram author chats and our Facebook community, because that's where you can learn, that's where you can talk to us, talk to the team, and ask all the questions that you have. So do you have any other parting words, Wren?
No, just thank you very much for enabling me to do this. It's been really exciting and interesting, and I've learned a lot more, which is great. Got more questions answered, which is fantastic. And I really look forward to the next steps, which is actually formalising my contract and getting my book done, of course, so that I can actually put it up on Publica and move forward with this exciting journey. So that'll be the next thing I'll be badgering you about, is what do I do next.
That sounds great. We are very excited, and we are actually getting ready to allow authors now to start their book ICO, because right now we do have one book ICO live at the moment with an author called Matt. So that's ongoing, and we are eagerly awaiting for you guys to join us and start promoting and pushing you guys out there as well. So thank you so much for being part of this journey. And Josef, again, thank you so much for your time and answering all our questions. Until next time.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.